A murder on Christmas Eve almost 20 years ago remains a mystery to investigators.
25-year-old Tera-Tracy was working at a convenience store on Castlehane Road overnight when she was attacked. Was it a robbery gone wrong or a planned murder? The answer remains unsolved. It was Christmas Eve, 1999.
She always put her Christmas tree up in October.
Ethel Griman says everyone knew how much her niece, Tera-Tracy, loved Christmas.
And she was always ahead of the game when it came to her tree.
But that year, Tracy had to work on Christmas Eve, the overnight shift.
She worked the third shift so she could watch the kids during the day, and her husband worked during the day.
Detective Justin Varela with the New-Hanover-County Sheriff's Office says Tracy was a clerk at the pantry on Castlehane Road. Her house is no longer here. It's been replaced by this CVS. But at the time, Varela said Tracy worked right across the street from where she lived. That Christmas Eve shift would be her last.
The bread delivery man was making the morning delivery and walked into the store only to find Tara's body.
Varela says the delivery man called 911, and when first responders arrived, Tracy was still holding on to life.
And they did everything they could to try to save Tara's life. She was pronounced dead later at the hospital.
It was awful. It was something that should not have happened.
What happened is something investigators are still trying to piece together.
Tara actually suffered from multiple stab wounds. She was stabbed in the head and the chest and the torso.
Was it a robbery gone wrong?
The cash register was knocked over in the store, and it did appear that an undisclosed amount of cash had been taken from the register, as well as probably some packs of cigarettes, because some cigarettes had been knocked over.
But something didn't add up.
The weapon that she was stabbed with was unique, and I won't go into detail as to what that weapon was. It's not something that you see every day, and it's not something that's typically used in the course of a robbery.
There were no surveillance cameras, but Varela says they found evidence of a vehicle parked nearby.
This is based on a canine track that was done that leads to where would appear to be some tire impressions were parked at a nearby church.
Did she have enemies? I mean, do you guys have any kind of motive?
To our knowledge, she didn't have any enemies at the time.
Varela says Tracy's husband was at home, right across the street when it happened.
Fortunately, her kids were actually with their grandparents or with another family member at the time.
He says they don't know who did it, but he says they do know Tracy didn't make it easy for them.
Tara definitely defended herself. I mean, she had defensive wounds where more than likely she got a shot on the killer as well. And from what I've been able to determine about Tara and the type of person she was a fighter.
She was definitely, without a doubt, a hard worker, and she always put her children first.
A dedicated mother who spent her life fighting for her kids, killed on Christmas Eve, a time of year that now has a very different meaning for her family.
This is a tough time of year for her mom. Her mother and I are very close, and it's been an absolute nightmare.
A nightmare that's been going on for 18 years.
2 years ago, her mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And of course, speaking on her behalf, nothing would be better than to have this case solved.
Griman says someone has the answer.
There's no doubt in my mind that someone knows who did this. I think after 18 years, it's just time to come clean.
To end their Christmas Eve nightmare that remains unsolved. If you know anything about this case, please contact the New-Hanover-County Sheriff's Office. To see this story and other unsolved cases in the Cape Fear, go to waytv3.com/unsolved.
These cases are always so heartbreaking because they are unsolved.
Yes.
But the added impact of on Christmas Eve, and she's a mother, this is heartbreaking.
Yes, and there are lots of details that go into these stories, and there was one other thing that he mentioned. There was a sign in the door that said closed for restocking, but they're not sure if it was a situation where she was actually closed for unstocking when this happened, or if she just forgot to turn it.
Oh.
So yeah, there were some other weird things that happened in the investigation. So
well, maybe somebody who's watching this morning will know something or recognize something from that. That is just a crazy story, especially right now. I know that family would love to have some answers.
Yes. All right. Well, up next, Stephanie has a last look at your work week forecast.
And we have all the stories everyone will be talking about today. Stay nearby.